Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. Tonight we have a very special guest, Mr. Malcolm Thomas. Malcolm Thomas was born and raised in Houston, Texas. He's a graduate from Texas State University. He earned a Bachelor of Science in Electronic Media with an emphasis on multimedia production and a minor in theater. He has performed in many musicals such as The Color Purple, Little Shop of Horrors, and The Wiz. Some of his favorite performances credits include Stuffed, The Seagull, Wandering, Two Trains Running, Pekong, and Kill Move Paradise. The play Wandering was entered into a regional competition where it received portrayal as a Cedric in Pekong. While attending Texas State, he landed two production internships, one at the Texas Film Commission and the other Half Yard Productions in New York. Moreover, he auditioned for Bobcat, Update News, and was able to be an anchor and hold an entertainment segment. Once Malcolm graduated from Texas State, he shifted his focus to working in education. Within 6 years, he was able to work in after school, family engagement, and college and career readiness. While working in education, Malcolm earned his MBA in marketing from Lamar University and was fortunate enough to dabble in the political world as a campaign manager. Malcolm plans to continue seeking opportunities in the communications field while auditioning for special multimedia endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Malcolm Thomas. Hello, sir. How are you? Check your.
My apologies, technical difficulties. I'm doing well, Mr. Charles. Thank you so much for having me today. That was a great introduction. I appreciate it. Thank you. Well done.
Yes. Is there anything you'd like to add to your bio?
Woo. I think that about sums it up. I will say, kind of like at the end of the bio, it was kind of talking about my journey within education. I will just say that I am still seeking out roles and doing things in education, but it kind of has shifted to higher education as well. So just keeping my hands in multiple hats. So that's all I'll add to that.
Okay. Well, then let's just dive right into this.
Awesome.
Tell us what inspired you to pursue a career in public speaking.
Wow. Really, I think what inspired me, I started off in theater in high school. That's when I mostly did theater. I dibbled and dabbled in it at church as I was younger. My aunt is also in theater, so she kind of pulled me kind of in with her. And then my family is kind of full of performers, you might say, some singers, some actors, every little thing combined, right? And so in high school, though, is when I really started to take it serious. And under the wonderful direction of Rashonda Jones from GW Carver High School in Houston, Texas, she really inspired me to be in the arts in some type of way, right? And so when I graduated from high school, the plan was to go into directing. But then I got to college, started to kind of, you start to learn yourself a little bit more. And I realized that really what I wanted to go for was public speaking, whether that be news anchoring, news reporting, any type of in front of the camera work. So that's kind of how that came about.
Okay. And so, in the process of just doing that, tell us, when you first started, you did your first public speech. How did that make you feel, and did that motivate you to want to do it more, and more?
Wow. Yeah. So I would say my first public speech, if I can recall, was probably my first one that I took kind of like seriously. Because, sometimes you have like the speech classes and you go up there, you got to do a speech for a grade. So those kind of happened throughout high school and then also in college. But when I first started to kind of realize that I had a passion for it was once I auditioned for Bobcat Update, which is the news station that's local to Texas State University for, for the students, graduate and undergraduate as well. I auditioned, got to be an anchor along with some amazing co-anchors as well. And I think that first time going live, having to read the teleprompter, even though I had practice, being live was a whole different, ball game. So I think I handled it very well. It was some mess ups. I can't lie. It was some mess ups, but I still knew that's the moment when I knew that, okay, this is one of my passions. And I have to, do it in some kind of fashion, right? Also, acting is one of my passions. So I kind of just try to combine and just kind of say, okay, just like think of it as if I'm performing and give it my all. But I think that day at that news station when we were live, and the feeling that I felt after I completed it and it was done was phenomenal. So that's when I knew, honestly.
So, how do you prepare for a major speaking engagement?
Me personally, and everybody is different. But me personally, when it comes to a speaking engagement, I think the main thing for me is to know the content. So whether it be if it's me already having a speech prepared, then great. But sometimes it's not always like that. So even if I do already have a speech prepared, it's still important for me to kind of, look over it several times, know the content area, whether it be, let's just say, for example, if we're talking about college and career readiness, right? And we're just talking about it in general, I kind of need to know more about, I need to know about the content in general, not just the specifics. So I can have kind of just more, I can be more confident, right? So I would say for me, knowing the content, and then a big one for me that I've kind of taken from the theater world is vocal warm ups. Vocal warm ups, whether it be muck swirling water makes the meal will work well, or different vocal warm ups that I've learned throughout my life, and making sure that can help make sure that my diction is on point and I'm enunciating and also being able to, let the listeners hear every word that I'm saying and also not talk too fast, which I have a habit of doing. So those are the big ones for me. Just really honing in on the vocal warm ups, making sure my diction is great, and making sure I know the content and studying that content. I think that's the biggest one for me because that's where the confidence can come from.
Well, you mentioned speaking fast. Do you speak fast when you're nervous?
I think I speak fast naturally, which is that's the thing, right? I think, and it's crazy because sometimes people be like my close friends and family, they're like, "Oh, Malcolm, you're so nonchalant," and I speak very slow, and I do know that I speak slow, but I think in a professional setting, maybe that's what it is. In a professional setting, I sometimes can speak a little fast, and I sometimes can even ramble a little bit. So I try to make sure that I like hold back on those things. But when it does come to nerves and public speaking, one thing that happens to me sometimes is that I get dry mouth. I do, and it's really no way that I can really overcome that. Like I keep my Carmex with me. So I put that on before I do any type of public speaking, but my mouth can get dry in the beginning. But the crazy thing about it is that once I'm in it, it all it goes away. But that's my where my nervousness goes to. I get dry mouth really bad.
Can you share a memorable experience from one of your public speaking events?
Ooh, there's a few. I will say my time in education was when I did a lot of public speaking events, really in general, because before that it was mostly news anchoring. So I really didn't see my audience because I was on the camera. But once I got into education and got the opportunity to basically do presentations and start to introduce the superintendent of our school district and things of that nature is when I really kind of, started the public speaking. But one of the most memorable ones that I can say is there was an event for volunteers in public schools, and my executive director, she kind of, asked me, "Hey, we need you to do this. We would be happy if you could be the host." And that's one thing that I'm always kind of like down to do because it's my passion. So I would say that that one is most memorable, one of the most memorable, really because of the audience and the feedback that I was getting from the audience. It's nothing like an audience that is engaged, right? And so that's what I got in that moment. I had an amazing co-host as well, Mr. Hector Ramirez, and he was great to have along my side because because he knew more so the content, right? And I was just kind of there to support him. But it was a good team effort. The audience was amazing, and they filmed it, so that's always great. So I can go back and kind of critique myself, and so that's one of the most memorable, I think, public speaking or hosting moments that I think I've had.
So, can you tell us this? What strategies do you use to engage your audience during presentations?
Ooh, I try to be as, I want to say, enthusiastic as possible, making sure that everything that's coming out of my mouth is not kind of just like slow and dragging. Um, I always I try to bring a little bit of myself into it if I can, and try to relate to some of the members of the audience, right? And what I mean by that is just if I'm probably like a couple of months ago, I was doing a presentation that was specific to middle school parents, giving them tips and everything when it comes to preparing their child to go to high school and beyond. So with that, I had to kind of relate to my high school experience, and kind of give some little funny moments in there to where I made them relate to me. Also, I try to keep my diction and my enunciation great, but at the same time, slip ups do happen, and I don't shy away from that. And so I think sometimes that connects with the audience as well because hey, none of us are perfect. We know, some situations in some instances can be stressful or overwhelming. So if I do make a slip up, I just honestly I'll be like, I'm sorry, y'all. And I use y'all a lot too. So it's like I try I try to be as personable as possible. And that's one thing that I really had to learn. Because in the beginning, like coming from the whole news anchor and reporter, I was more so just like boom, with the smile, giving the information, versus now I've kind of learned to just be more relaxed in certain settings when it comes to public speaking. I think now I know the difference between like sometimes I might have to strictly be that professional if I'm introducing the superintendent or so forth, versus I know when I'm in front of another audience, it may be students or something. I know I could then switch it to be more so myself, and they appreciate that. So I think knowing what your audience appreciates as well is a big one too.
So, I noticed that you mentioned the news anchor desk. Tell us about that. How did that come to be, and what did you like most about that?
I think so. It had always been in my mind. I consider myself, well, I'm starting to consider myself and learning about myself that I kind of want to put my hand in different things and learn how to do different things and be able to, do different things, and try out different career paths and things of that nature, right? So I would say throughout high school, it had been in my mind. Um, my sophomore, it was my freshman or sophomore year, we did uh, probably about a miniature play, I would say. So probably like a 10-minute play. And it was called Details at 11. I'll never forget. And so I was fortunate enough to be one of the news anchors. So that's when I was like, okay. And then the news reporter voice kind of came a little naturally, I guess, from me, watching the news with my grandmother when I was younger. She would keep it on the news or keep it on Oprah. So it's just like little things throughout my childhood that would stick with me when it came to interviewing or public speaking. I think that moment when I did that 10-minute play, that's when it kind of really stuck with me, because it's like, okay, even though this is acting, it's like you can do this, because I can really be up there acting like a news anchor. You know what I mean? So that's when it hit me doing that production in high school, and then when I got to college, at first I in my mind I wanted to go into directing. That changed before I even got to college, and I decided to say, you know what, I want to major in business. I got into the I realized how much math that was, and I said, you know what, nah, that's not for me. And so then that's when I started racking my brain, and boom, I was like, broadcast journalism, and that's where it all began.
I got to tell you, you bring a shiny light.
Thank
You
you, I
bring
appreciate
a
that.
light.
Thank you.
And you've got a very bubbly, personable personality. I think is very affectionate, and I
Thank
think that you've got to be a natural people person that you just attract people.
I would. I try to be humble, but a lot of people do say that. I try to be
Mhm.
as positive as I can be, and kind of just being as supportive to others as I can be. Um, and 9 times out of 10, sometimes it ain't, but 9 times out of 10, I have a smile on my face. And I guess be, trying to enjoy myself and just have a good time and not stress over the little things or even sometimes the big things. But I definitely appreciate that. That means a lot, especially in the career that I'm in and trying to go higher in. That definitely means a lot. So I
Yes.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, most definitely. How do you handle difficult questions from the audience?
Honestly, honestly, I remain honest. That's one thing I learned as well in the education field when it came to doing presentations. Because when I was in family engagement specifically, that's really what the job consisted of was, doing presentations. And I was brand new to the job, and pretty much I was only like a year and a half into the district, brand new into education in general, right? So there was a lot of things that I did not know. And at one point, I used to try to answer, and they read that on my face. Like the audience would read, like, "Oh, he does not know what he's talking about," and that's really one of the worst feelings that I've had from time to time, multiple times. Is like you can tell when somebody think like, he really don't know the content that he's talking about. So I think I then learned. I talked to some of the people that I worked with who had lots of experience within presenting, within family engagement, and a couple of them told me two that I hold to my heart dearly. Miss Ingrid Tuesta and Miss Laura Perez. They have kind of told me, they're like, okay, look, if you don't know, it's okay to say not too sure about that. I am going to reach out to my manager or my director, and I'm going to get back to you with that. Here's my email. Please feel free to reach out to me if I don't get back to you within 48 hours, but I will get back to you with the answer to your question. That's one way that I've done it and learned how to do it. Another way that I've learned how to do it that I really like is kind of like flipping it back, not on that person who asked the question, but on another audience member. So like if someone is asking me, ooh, it could be anything, right? If they're asking me about a specific, if I had experience, let's just say uploading a document to such and such, right? So if they were to ask me that, I would be like, you know what? I really don't have experience. Does anybody else in the audience have experience with that and would like to share and guide us through? And so that's how I do it. Either getting somebody else to kind of support in that moment, or saying, you know what, admitting that I do not know, let me get that answer for you and reach back out and we'll get back at it. So that's kind of how I try to handle those situations.
So, what role does multimedia play in enhancing your public speaking presentations?
I think multimedia, when it comes to, because a lot of the times I have to also be in the process of creation, like creating the presentations as well. So that's where I think multimedia comes into play. Or even if it's not presentation based, because sometimes I've done public speaking to where, it's just either a speech or sometimes even having to wing it, just basing it off of the content. But I think multimedia plays a big part in the writing of the verbiage of the presentation or what I'm going to be talking about. So the writing plays a big part in that, being able to, because especially if I'm reading it, I kind of need it to be grammatically correct. Because I myself, me reading it, sometimes I'm good at like, skipping over it if it's an error or adjusting it in that moment. But sometimes I'm not. So grammatically, it being grammatically correct plays a big part. So writing plays a big part, as well as just knowing things about multimedia, knowing things about video production, lighting, angles, allows me to come in and kind of also say, hey, can you, adjust my light for me? Can you, adjust this camera angle for me? Things of that nature. Um, Within the last position I had within family engagement, we would do a show called The Tour, where they would have the cameras and we would go to different campuses and kind of interview students with whatever project they're working on. And so it's a lot of times I'm kind of like, okay, can we adjust the camera this way, or can we do it from this angle? So I think that's where the multimedia really kind of plays a big part in public speaking as well.
Well, can you tell us this? How do you stay updated with the latest multimedia tools and technologies?
TikTok. To keep it simple, honestly, TikTok. My my little cousin, and I was telling somebody this the other day. It's like it's amazing how you can learn from people of any age, any race, anything. You can learn from anyone, right? So my little cousin, it was a couple of years ago, I think, when TikTok had, was first starting to jump off, and I'm like, that ain't for me. She was the one who kind of introduced me because she would do all the little, the little dances and all of that. Introduced me to TikTok, and now any kind of anything that I like need to know or like, I get on TikTok, and when I tell you, it's been amazing. So when it comes to keeping up to even like current trends that are going on, TikTok is my go-to. And also having that support system through work relationships that I've kind of developed throughout, my career. That's my go-to as well, kind of leaning on some others who have experience within the field and could also, provide me with things that I didn't know, and also we can kind of work hand in hand, uplift each other, and let each other know things. So keeping a village is important, and TikTok as well is kind of how that happened for me.
TikTok.
Yeah,
I'm
how
just
TikTok is.
I'm just now starting to use TikTok. I haven't done my first one yet. I
Uh-huh.
just recently set up a profile, but it's still incomplete. But
Uh-huh.
I want to do the live because their live studio is much different than the other platforms.
Yes, yes, I've noticed that. I've never went live on TikTok. I don't really post on there. I mostly just scroll. But I have seen their lives, and it seems like it's compared to other lives. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely different, and it's definitely a different audience too. So I think that's important to have your audience over there on TikTok. Have you learned anything? Like, have you scrolled on there?
Yeah, yeah, I don't really scroll because I just want to use it for promotional reasons.
Okay, okay.
So I was supposed to have done some TikTok starting last week, but I did not. But
Uh-huh.
I've got to start doing them because I'm seeing the moves that the and the way it's working,
Mhm.
because that thing definitely spreads out. It's got
Yes,
lots of tentacles,
yes,
so it can reach pretty much any and every place or everybody.
right, exactly. I think it's the perfect, like, you know, one of the yeah, it's like one of the best platforms right now. like you said, reaching so many different audiences and just being able to play with all of like the different features that TikTok has, I would definitely agree with that.
So, how does your work relate to doing work, in community areas or just working with people in general? How has that been for you?
That has been, I want to honestly say, one of the best parts of the positions that I've had in my career so far.
Mhm.
I'll put it that way. First of all, I never would have thought that I really would have been going into education. It kind of just fell in my lap because I needed a job. Honestly, I needed a job, and my mom had several years in education, so she connected me with somebody. You know, it's all about who you know, and so that's how I really got into it. But within the past two positions that I've had, the first one as well, it all involves community in some type of way. So whether it be seeking out community partnerships to come in to, talk to the students and or parents or staff as well. So building those relationships with local community partners and even being able to communicate with all different types of people. It's really been a great experience for me. And I say all that too to say that like even with positions that maybe in my near future, I needed to have some type of component where I'm communicating with somebody where I'm able to, be in people. I call it being in people's faces. Like I do love being in people's faces sometimes and just really running my mouth. So I think I did not know that until I started doing the community work that I've done within the last two positions in my career. It's taught me how to communicate with a lot of different people, as well as in my kind of high school senior year going into kind of like college as well. I was a server, so that kind of taught me people skills as well. So I think it's been great, and I've learned how to communicate with all different types of people, and I want to continue to be in the community in some type of fashion.
I wish when I had known you and I was in the same place you were in when I first created this podcast, because I can, really the positive vibes,
Hmm.
and being a people person, because sometimes that gets to be a whole lot for one person.
Yeah.
you know, I can just imagine, when you were on that on the newscast, did they ever decide to give you a special segment, or did you ever want a special segment?
It's funny that you asked that. So yes, they actually, and the crazy thing about it is, I had co-anchored, for the third time within Bobcat Update at Texas State, and that third time I co-anchored was one of the worst times. I don't know what was in the water that I drunk before getting on camera, but when I tell you that like once I messed up one time, I guess I was in my head and I messed up throughout that entire show.
Oh wow.
Um, I really did. And so, but the crazy thing about it, to answer your question, the crazy thing about it is after that time that I messed up, the professor who was over, the newscast in general, offered me a entertainment segment, which was right up my alley, and I didn't even know it. But fast forwarding to now, I realized like that was right up my alley. But yeah, so he gave me an entertainment segment, a quick segment, how where you highlight kind of like what's going on in entertainment. And what's going on in the media. So that was one of the only, that's the only segment I had. And it was kind of right towards the end of the year too. And I was a senior. Me and the other co-anchors were getting ready to graduate. So it was kind of like a perfect ending, I would say. But yeah, so I did have that segment. I definitely enjoyed it. And it was kind of like my opportunity as well to kind of like come back and kill it since I had messed up that third time. So I don't know if that's why the professor gave it to me because he's like, you need to redeem yourself. But I don't like to toot my own horn a lot. but I did redeem myself. But that's the only segment I was fortunate enough to have throughout that process of news anchoring.
Can you describe a project where multimedia significantly impacted your campaign success?
Wow, the campaign. So, and then to just like briefly give an overview about the campaign,
Mhm.
one of my good friends, Michaela Levi, she called one day and kind of told me and my other friends that she was deciding to run for to be on the Aldine ISD school board, and she asked me to be her campaign manager, and then she also asked our other friends to be one of them was the fundraising, I mean the funding director, one was the social media director, and one was the community outreach director as well, one of my friends. And so, but this was all our first time doing that, so that was a journey, right? But when it came to multimedia, I think working hand in hand with um, the social media director and the individual who was running at that time as well, to kind of figure out how can we maximize our outreach. That's where multimedia came in and played a big part. So creating flyers on Canva, including QR codes on the flyers, making sure that the flyers or content was visually pleasing to the eye and not too many bright colors or not too many, difficult to read fonts, I would say.
Mhm.
So I think definitely with like kind of like flyer creation, even video campaigns, going live on social media, because there are times where my friend went live or whatever. Using media to its advantage is what I would just really ultimately say. Using all the social media platforms, using media to its advantage, because media is very big and it gets bigger and bigger, more and more platforms and more different ways to reach, audience members, whoever the audience may be. Media is a great way to reach a lot
So
of audience.
it's like your experience with social media. I know you mentioned the wonderful things about TikTok and how you scroll through it and so forth.
Mhm.
When you use social media, especially when it's promoting, something that you're doing,
Mhm.
um, what is your inspiration in using social media in order to make your posts be that much more powerful?
Mm. So the crazy thing about it is when it comes to self promotion, I I'm on social media, but I don't post as frequent. But when I do post, I just try to make sure. Let's just say if it's like a general post on Instagram versus a story post, a general post, I try to make sure it has a good caption. Um, I try to make sure that angles are good from whatever picture I took. That's just like for me personally. Now, if it was for a project I was doing, that's when I get into kind of like, okay, let's make sure we have these hashtags to get that engagement. So, like on TikTok, for example, we need to know what hashtags are popping right now, and we need to put that under that post. And like for Twitter, for example, hashtags uh, and GIFs or photos as well. I really believe that even like when it came to me doing those presentations that I used to do, and me, kind of like also doing the whole social media thing, like promoting when it comes to promoting the speech or the presentation that's coming up, I always need a visual component because I think that stops people when they're scrolling. If it's on Twitter, right? For example. So I think just for me, the strategies or tools that I've found to kind of work, it's consistently doing research for one, but hashtags, good visuals, gotta have some good visuals, some good clear images, and also kind of like posting what you think, your followers or your audience, wants to see and will engage with and will react to.
Well, you know something. Let me tell you about the way I post, because I need to post more frequently. I post, but I don't post every day like most people do.
Mm.
And so when you're just in that space, let me just ask you this: when you're in that space, and I know like when I post, I like to just do like the video post because I mean I type so much that my fingers are like just killing me.
Right, right.
I just do the video post and I send it out.
Hmm.
I forget a lot about the one thing that you said about the hashtags. Why do you think the hashtags are so important?
Ooh, I think I would say for probably like two different reasons, right? Um, One of the main ones is if there's an engaging hashtag, people are going to, well, if it connects with them, right? They're going to click on it. So, like going back to the TikTok post, it could be about, let's just say you're just doing a general post about, a day in the life type post, but you're doing it at the same time that the Olympics are happening.
Hmm.
People are going to look up that Olympics 2024 hashtag and look, boom, there you are. And you
Hmm.
just got a view naturally. You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the main reasons that it's important, because if people are interested in whatever is popping right now, a lot of times they click on that hashtag and like to see like different posts related to that topic.
Okay.
That's one reason I think that it's important. And also, I think branding.
Hmm.
That's what I've learned as well. It's important for branding. If I'm promoting an event, it's a good idea for me to create a hashtag and include it in that post. And every time I'm posting about that event, we're using that hashtag and we're maximizing our usage on that hashtag as much as possible.
So let's just say this. I do a reel on Instagram.
Mhm.
This picture,
Okay.
okay, and hashtag 2024 Olympics and post,
Mhm.
and that starts trending.
Are you're asking me if that would start trending?
Then that would start trending based on like people want to see 2024 Olympics and they're looking for that hashtag.
I wouldn't say it would start trending, but
Mhm.
if the hashtag is already trending, then you would be in that lineup. You would kind of reach more, you would reach more or more of a diverse population, I would say,
Mhm.
if you're going based off of whatever that popping hashtag may be. That's what I'll say. I won't say you'll instantly go
Right.
viral and start trending, but I think
Yes.
it's a good way to reach more so of a diverse audience. That yeah,
Okay.
I'll put it that way. I don't want people to think
Hey.
that like, oh, I can use a popping hashtag and I'm gonna be, doing an interview with Jennifer Hudson tomorrow because I went viral. No. So yeah, so I think it just allows you to reach a diverse audience.
Because now I will tell you this, I was because I have a blog as well, and when I do my blog post, I put like, oh my god, I don't know how many of those hashtags that pop up in there, and I put them all in there. And I mean, the posts are good, but the thing that's catching me now off guard is that they're like really reaching because my stats every month they're always improving, and so I'm just trying to understand what makes the hashtag that popular though. That's what I don't understand that. Well, I mean, like, where did that come from?
No, great question. And this is one of those moments, right, that I was kind of talking about earlier when sometimes I don't know the answer. I was going to be honest because I do not. I don't know the answer, right? So, social media for me is I do it within the work that I do because a lot of times, not a lot of times, but within a few of the positions, it's kind of fell into my lap when it comes to communication tools. So that's kind of where I've started using it. And that's where I kind of learned from another individual that hashtags can be beneficial. I know
Mhm.
sometimes they might not, but sometimes they can. Sometimes you may reach somebody that you don't want to reach.
Mm.
If you have a certain audience that you have your mindset on when it comes to engagement with that post, sometimes you may reach an audience that you don't want to reach by chance. So, but I will, to answer your question, I can't answer it because I don't know. But those are the little things I know about hashtags, right? Social media, I'm not the expert on that just yet.
So, how do you balance creativity and technical skills in your role as a multimedia specialist?
Ooh, you said creativity and technical skills. I
Yes.
just try to always make myself always remain ever ready is what I'll say. My director once told me in high school, she was like, Malcolm, you are ever ready, meaning she was like, I can always call up on you, whether you might not have too much context about whatever the situation is, you're going to find a way and you're going to make it happen. So when it comes to balancing the creativity side and technical skills, as well as like learning continuously about new things that's happening, I try my best to be ever ready, and I try my best to be consistent. And I just give it all that I have. I think just not stressing out about certain things and knowing that within that space, within that creative and technical space, that there's gonna be hiccups. It happens, there's gonna be hiccups. And it's more so, instead of stressing in those moments, it's like, how can we overcome it as an individual, or as a team? How can we get past that? So I think balance for me when it comes to, creativity and technical ability would just be being ever ready, being consistent, and continuing to be on the up and up when it comes to knowing some of the new things that are happening, whether it be the new trends, whether it be new platforms, whether it be, you know, um, different ways of engagement. Just kind of being ever ready and being open and willing to learn and receive
Mm,
is a
that's,
big one.
yes, it is. That's interesting. What advice would you give to someone aspiring to become a multimedia specialist?
I would say do as much research as you can in regards to just learning all things media, right? So whether it be like I'm like I said, TikTok, right? So I'm big on social media platforms when it comes to, I do try to keep myself connected to what's going on, and I think social media platforms have helped me with that, in regards to whether it be politically, whether it be what's going on locally here, when it even comes to weather. So I would say always being open to learning about multimedia and learning about different processes, and finding yourself a mentor, connecting with, let's just say you want to go into that field, but you have no experience. Connecting with people who are in that field within the department at your work can really also help. I really, what I can say when it comes to that is just, once again, being open and willing to learn, and, and being consistent with that, consistent with learning, because things are forever evolving and, forever changing, as we all know. So just being open to change and being open to learning about multimedia in all aspects is what I would really say. And connecting with people, it's all about who you know. At the end of the day, I learn that more and more every single day. So connecting with people, because you never know what you can learn from another individual.
Tell us about your acting.
Ooh, my acting. It's been a while. That's what I'll start off
Mhm.
with. It's been a while. It's been, I think, the last production that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of was actually the a full play wise, Kill Move Paradise, where I was fortunate enough to play Tiny for the Sankofa Collective locally here in Houston. Two amazing An amazing team of directors and artistic directors that I went to high school with, by the name of Ulrich Davis, Trey Lewis, and Yesha Benjamin. They kind of allowed me. I auditioned and everything as well, but they encouraged me that once I came from college to kind of get back into acting. So that's kind of how it started off for me. But the last production that I was in would be Kill Move Paradise, and that, if I'm not mistaken, was in 2018. So it has been a while. I plan to get back at it. It came about basically through high school, is where my passion really developed for it. I was fortunate enough to be president, co-president, along with another individual by the name of Niles Washington. We were able to, fortunate enough to be co-presidents and our senior year. But throughout my freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, I grew love for theater more and more each year, and it's really because of the awesome directors that I was underneath, Rashonda Jones and Jabari Collins. So it is a passion of mine, and it is something that I do want to get back into. The timing just has to be right, and I gotta practice, my chops, and start practicing some monologues and things of that nature to get back to auditioning. But it's definitely a passion of mine. I enjoy stepping into being someone else,
Mm.
because typical Malcolm is chill. He don't really care about too much. Like, that's just how I am. So being able to step into somebody who is completely different from you and like create a whole character is the part that I love about theater and acting the most. And I also will say, if it had not been for me being in theater throughout high school, I probably wouldn't have went into communications and multimedia. I really think that's where it all started for me, is theater and acting.
So, how does acting make you feel?
It makes me feel great. It's nothing like doing something you love and knowing that you can also do it pretty much every day if it came down to it,
Mhm.
and getting that reaction from the audience, knowing that the audience is feeling what you're talking about, is a great feeling. And really, it makes me feel, can't really find the word for it, but it makes me feel like, okay, I know that this is something that I love to do. I know that this is something that I want to continue to do throughout my life. Even if there's a moment like right now that I haven't done it in a while, I know that I'm going to get back to it in some capacity, because that feeling of doing something that you love and you could do it even if you weren't getting paid is a really great feeling.
Mm.
So I think that's, I can tell and I know for a fact that acting is a passion of mine, just as well as emceeing or public speaking. Well, hosting, I'll say hosting or public speaking.
Well, I'll just tell you like this. You know, when I think when it comes to acting, I can see that those that are good at the craft, they have this special gift. What I want to know is when you're inside that character, are you all the way in that character to where when you're in the role, you're in that role and you're just totally immersed in it?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I would say there are times that I am fully that character. I've never tried out or been I've never tried out like method acting or anything like that. There are moments where I have been fully, immersed into the character. One of the strategies that I think that I used when I did Kill Move Paradise specifically was kind of creating a playlist of, music that I feel, because music, I like all different types of music. So creating a playlist based off of what was going on in that show and based off of that character as well kind of helped me fully immerse myself into the character. So it is moments when you're on the stage and you feel like you are that actual character. However, where the no comes in is that, and if you're in it, right? So this could be different for another individual. But for me personally, and one thing that I've always kind of been taught, and that has always been in my ear from working with, different directors, and more so my high school director, is being a thinking actor.
Mm.
So I think, yeah, being a thinking actor to where if my co-star fumbles a line, or if I fumble a line, or if the banjo that I need to play is not on set, where it's supposed to be on the couch, I have to be a thinking actor. And it's like, I have to figure out how to keep this moving and not jump out of character.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's the reason that I say yes and no. So
Okay.
there's been moments that I've been kind of like fully in it, but I know some people are into the method acting thing and they go home being that character. I've never tried that out. I guess I don't know. I've never tried that out, but I think yes and no, because I think it is very important to be a thinking actor because anything can happen. And when you are, and I've never done film before, right? So I'm talking about plays specifically. You're live. You're live. So anything can go down, right? So I think it's important to be a thinking actor. So
Wow.
yes and no. I've been immersed fully into the character, but I don't know if I have been 100% that character because it's important to. I have to be, thinking about kind of like different things as well.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that your acting career is about to take off.
Name it and claim it.
I'm
Speaking into existence.
sure. Yeah,
Speaking into existence. I appreciate that.
exactly. How do you transition from being a multimedia specialist to a campaign manager?
So there was no, I won't say there's no transition there, but that was something that kind of that started off like as a new hobby that I'm like, okay. I remember talking to one of my coworkers, May Lynn, about it and kind of asking her, I'm like, May Lynn, one of my friends wants me to, ooh. I'm like, ooh, she wants to be a campaign manager. And May Lynn was like one of those people, she was like, Malcolm, she was like, you can do it. She was like, just study, research. She was like, it's your first time. She was like, y'all are friends, so y'all can work together and learn from each other. And I think that's one of the most important things because I think we were all campaign managers. I think we all played many different, even though we had certain titles, I think we all worked together and we all supported each other within the work. So it was kind of a hobby at that time because I was doing it to support my friend. I was doing it pro bono, and I wanted to experience it. That's I think one of the moments that I kind of told myself, okay, let's try this out. Let's try this out. Let's see how it goes. If you like it, cool. If you don't, you don't. And you know that you won't possibly tap back into it. But I think more so it was kind of like a hobby for me because I still had a full-time job at the time. So it was like extracurricular, if you might say.
Mhm.
But a very unique process. There were hiccups, difficulty, but I think the team that we had is really what kept us going. Like working with each other and teaching each other things and figuring out how to navigate it because we were all new to it.
Wow.
So I would say the transition was smooth, just because I knew that I had a check coming from a different, thing. So that's probably what really made it smooth.
Okay. What are the key elements of a successful digital campaign?
Oh, the key elements. And so this is a hard question, right? Um, and it is. It is. When it, I would say some of the things that I know
Mhm.
when it comes to having a successful digital campaign um, is making sure that you are on most of or all of the platforms.
Mhm.
Specifically, like for example, when we were doing that campaign, we knew that one of the platforms that we wanted to kind of use more so than others was Facebook because of the audience voting wise that we were kind of aiming at, as well as we kind of did our research and we learned that other individuals within that who were also running as well and had ran in the past said that Facebook was where it was at when it came to promoting. So I think kind of knowing your audience is important when it comes to digital campaigns. I think also knowing how to be a creative when it comes to creating multimedia for different platforms, which Canva has kind of helped with that within my journey. Um, so those are the main things that I would say that come to mind. I think knowing your audience is big as well. And I think also analyzing your engagement metrics. and kind of seeing how can you get those engagement numbers better each time.
Those are the analytics. Because what I've noticed is when I do my post on LinkedIn, oh man, the analytics are off the charts.
That's good. Yeah.
It is, and just learning how to read them is the thing,
Right.
because they don't actually delve too deep into them. But just the information that they give you, yeah, it helps you to just build the picture as to what it's supposed to be. But yeah,
Exactly. I think that's definitely big. And to be honest, that's something that I learned more so in recent months, or when I was kind of like getting my MBA, because I just finished with that in December, so I'm still fresh with the MBA. But thank you. But that's one of the things that I learned, really, is those analytics, and kind of just even knowing to look at those KPIs, or those key performance indicators, seeing where your numbers are coming back to the drawing board, and seeing, okay, how can we get these analytics better? How can we increase these numbers? So that's something that I'm still kind of learning about, and hopefully within future, future, whether it be career wise or extracurricular wise, I'll be able to kind of play more with that and learn a little bit more about that.
so how do you measure the effectiveness of your campaigns?
KPIs, yeah, key performance indicators. Going back to the analytics, kind of like we were saying, or looking at those numbers, is one way. I think when we were in that campaign phase, is what we kind of looked at the most. And we would notice different things. It's like, okay, wow, our engagement is down on Instagram, but it's up on Facebook. At one point in time, the young lady who was running, Miss Levi, she kind of, she was buying like ads on Facebook. So we knew that within that area, within the Acres Home area, for example, that, okay, this is reaching, and that's who we wanted to reach, right? One of the audience members, one of the areas that we wanted to reach. So even like we had to learn about purchasing ads and kind of experience that a little bit, to like see if that could help our increase our numbers. And it was a lot of trial and error, and that's okay, right? And it was a lot of trial and error, and it was a lot of coming back to the drawing board, seeing what worked and what didn't work based off of those numbers. So and then in a professional setting, it could be running polls, or a lot of times work-wise in education, we do surveys. We try to make them quick. I've learned to make them as brief as possible, to just get the information you want. And that way they can also do the survey as well, if it's just like a quick and fast one. So really measuring your engagement in different ways. So whether it be looking at the analytics, whether it be, oh, can you complete this survey, and analyzing those numbers on the back end, um, as well as a few other ways. But I would definitely say polls, focus groups. We've done focus groups within education, to kind of get a feel of what went well within that presentation, or also get a feel of, hey, you're a parent, you're the PTO president, you're around the parents a lot. What do they, what are their issues? What are their concerns? I think that's a big one too. Being connected, and being having connections throughout whatever you're doing, to just learn more and more about the audience that you're seeking out.
Okay. Can you share a case study of a particularly successful campaign you managed?
I've only managed one. I've only managed that one, and that was last year. So it was from about, we started in like July, from like about like July to November, of course. And honestly, I would say that one was successful, because it was our first time. And when we looked back at the numbers, I can't remember the numbers right off the top of my head. But as far as when we looked at the numbers voting wise, we were all impressed, and other individuals were impressed as well, because they kept saying, we were so young or whatever, we were so young to be doing that. And then to see the outcome, even though unfortunately we did not win, but seeing the outcome number wise did let us know that if we, knowing what we kind of know now, what we went through and learned, that if we did want to tap back into that again, that we can, right? So I think that's going to be my case study of a successful campaign, the Michaela Levi campaign for Aldine ISD School Board. That's a successful campaign case study for me because we worked together. We got out there and went door to door, and we did everything and hit every stop, turned every corner that we could. And I am still to this day impressed with all of us. So I think we did a pretty good job.
Well, what challenges do you face in managing multiple campaigns simultaneously, which you only did that one? So
Yeah.
excuse me for doing that question there. Um, um, what trends do you see shaping the future of digital campaigns?
AI. AI. Yeah, AI. Being able to, and I know I've dibbled and dabbled in AI myself, but I haven't as much as others have. But I have heard that AI can even create, it can create a flyer for you if you give it the details. And the more specific you are, that's one thing I have learned. Because Chat GPT helped me with that campaign in regards to like, okay, being very specific, right? And I
Mhm.
think using AI to your advantage and but knowing kind of like how to use it is very important. So I'll never forget going in there and saying, okay, given the details about the candidate, giving the timeline of the campaign, and asking ChatGPT, okay, can you give me a timeline breakdown of how we need to successfully run this campaign? What do we need to do from week to week? And it did that, right? So I say that to say that I've heard that it also can create you flyers. It can create you videos. I haven't tried that out yet, but I will be one day soon because I want to learn about it. But that's what I think is up and coming AI. And AI is used, from what I see, in so many different facets of life that that's the next big thing. And I think social media is still, but AI, because AI is in social media, so artificial intelligence. That's what
That,
I'm seeing right now.
that's a good lead into my next question because I want to know, how do you incorporate social media into your campaign strategies?
I would say definitely creating engaging posts, which can go back to AI. AI helped with that as well. Some things you have to tweak, of course, because you want to make it personal or personable and make it not sound too either wordy or too, you want to make sure for your audience you're not having like these huge words and things of that nature. But I think in regards to campaign and social media, and then also wrapping AI in there, kind of saying, okay, can you give me 5 tweets in regards to the campaign? Here are the details about the candidate. Here's etc. information, as well as doing a campaign when it comes to like even being in education or whatever it may be. Tailoring your message on social media to your audience, I think, is key, and that's something that AI helped with throughout that process of even whether it be the campaign that we did for that school district or me working in education over the past year and a half or so. It has helped with tailoring the message for the audience and making it quick because you don't want it to be too long because people got things to do. So, like making it quick, making it engaging, and tailoring it to your audience.
Okay. So, when you was the campaign manager,
Mhm.
tell us, what was your most rewarding aspect?
I think the most rewarding was, I would say, two things. The first one being able to be in those in certain spaces, in certain rooms, and connecting. I learned a lot about, running for to be a school board trustee, as well as my friends as well. We learned a lot, and so I think learning about it, connecting with people within the rooms that we were in, whether it even be like we went to a bunch of events to, hand out push cards and flyers and things of that nature. And it was great to, you never know who you're going to run into. So it was great to connect with people, because going back to me now, knowing that I am a community person, I do like to be involved within the community. So connecting would be one, and then also finishing the campaign, not in a like negative way, but just finishing it like we did this type thing. We did this, and seeing the numbers and seeing that we were close, I, that was that was the best feeling. That was the best feeling, because it's like, okay, we gonna get better and better. If we decide to do it again, it's only up and up from here, because now we know that we can do it, and now we know where the resources are to successfully do it. I think, yeah. So finishing was definitely the greatest feeling throughout throughout that process, for sure.
Did you guys use a lot of canvassers?
We had a small team, so it was only five of us on the team in general. Like when it came to like,
So y'all didn't.
yeah, yeah, and so we tried to utilize as much. Like we had some help from some volunteers, like some high school volunteers who needed those volunteer hours, and things of that nature. And then two of my friends, luckily, one of their little sister and then one of their nieces also went to like one of the high schools within the district. So we were kind of able to leverage, that connection that they had with the school and some of their friends as well. But like I think at one time, I would say, because like it was some days that we split up and like this group go here in Canvas, this group goes there in Canvas. I would say the most that we've had at one time would have probably been only 10 people total. Like, yeah. So that's one of the things that we did a lot of groundwork. We did a lot of like, we didn't have a large team, and so I think going forward, that now we kind of know how to at least try to obtain more canvassers.
Hmm. Now, this I know that this is a very easy question for you. How do you stay motivated and inspired in your multifaceted career?
Ooh. Knowing that it's always something better that's coming and something next. And
Mhm.
keeping God first. Keeping God first for sure. But knowing that, like for me, throughout my career so far, and I know with my even with my career to come throughout my life, I know that it's only gonna be up and up, and I'm only gonna keep learning and keep growing. I think that's one of the biggest things for me too, is being able to learn and grow within many different areas. I think that's what keeps me going. Um, and as long as I'm able to do, be within media in some kind of way, within, different things that I'm doing, that brings me joy. That brings me happiness. That's where my passion lies. So what keeps me going is knowing that there's always up and up. I'm always going to be growing. I'm always going to get better and better at whatever it is. I am somewhat of a perfectionist at sometimes. So, and I can be competitive at sometimes. So those things kind of play into that, as well as where I know that no, I'm gonna keep going and I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep learning, and I'm gonna make the best of each and every moment throughout my career and throughout everything that I do. I can't have I won't use profanity, but I can't, half do anything, I feel.
As you look into that wonderful camera that you're looking into, tell our audience why you stay as motivated as you are and how they can be just like you.
I would say, um, once again, keeping God first and knowing that we only have one life to live. We only have this life, this life here on this earth to live is really, that's what keeps me going and keeps me motivated. And it hasn't always been this way. I think within like the past few years, I have kind of told myself, okay, let's try this out. Let's try that out. Let's learn more about this. How can we grow within this area? So I would say that's how I stay motivated, just kind of knowing that even if it may be a rocky time, a rocky situation, there's been times where I have been, rifted, which is basically like a reduction in force, laid off from positions. And it's like, you know what? Nah, I'm good. Something better is coming. God got me. There's always something better that's coming next. That's what keeps me motivated. And I would say continue being yourself, your own individual, um, and be unapologetic when it comes to yourself and putting yourself first and putting your goals first. Be unapologetic when it comes to that. Because and this is something that I'm learning like currently. Like I think about there's a clip that from that has been viral on the internet before with Taraji P. Henson. She was playing Cookie in Empire, and she was like, "I gotta put me first. I gotta put me first." And that's something that I do kind of tell myself. Like when it comes to the goals that I have set for myself, I'm gonna be unapologetic, and I'm gonna put myself first, and I'm gonna get it done. So I think that's the message that I would want to send to anybody who is currently listening right now, and whoever's gonna watch as well after.
Can you discuss? No, sorry. What role does teamwork play in your success as a campaign manager?
Ooh, teamwork is everything. Even outside of campaign managing, like any position that I've been in or been fortunate enough to be in, what they say is true. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Mhm.
Can't do it all by myself. And I don't know everything. So like I'm always looking to learn from somebody else. I'm always keeping that open communication with colleagues or with team members in order to learn, in order to grow. And that's how we get the best outcome. The more minds and you know, the more minds you have, the more knowledge that's within the group, you're going to get to a successful outcome. So I definitely think that teamwork is one of the top things when it comes to campaign managing. And when it comes to anything, really, when it comes to careers, I think working with your team is definitely important for sure. And because you'll be able to learn, from other individuals. I don't want to be in a room to where I'm the only one who knows about certain things. No, I need to be in a room where I know there's somebody who knows more than me about this, as well. So I can learn from them. We can piggyback off of each other. And I think that should be a continuous process.
I agree with you on that. How do you manage your time effectively across your various roles?
Time management is a big one. And it's something that I have not always been, I'm still not good at it. Um, but a calendar helps with time management and also organization when it comes to priorities and deadlines as well. Knowing that this deadline is coming up, but I don't want to procrastinate and I need to get it done Monday, even though it's due Friday. I need to get it done. Let's say get it wrapped up Monday, make my edits or whatever, because I also have A, B, and C to do. That even though that's due next week, it needs to be kind of a continuous flow. That way, you don't get behind and miss deadlines or creep up on deadlines. I think organization is a big key when it comes to time management. And that's something that I have to learn. That's something that I'm still learning. I think on the organization part, I'm pretty good. There's definitely a lot of room to grow on my end with time management in general. But that's a way that I have kind of gotten better at it, is making sure that I have A, B, and C on my calendar, and I'm managing my time well when it comes to whatever task I have to complete.
Okay. What impact do you hope to achieve through your work in public speaking, multimedia, and campaign management?
Connecting with the people. It's no greater feeling than after you get done, presenting or giving a speech, or after you get done, walking around that community event, connecting with people. It's nothing better than somebody coming up to you saying, "Oh my God, like you did an amazing job. What you said really connected with me." So I say that to say, changing people's lives, because I think a lot of times we don't really know as individuals how much we can change another individual's life or make an impact on another individual's life. It could be something so simple, but it could have made their day so much better. It's been so many times where I have been having a bad day, and somebody comes to me, and it'll be like my most recent manager, for example, such a bubbly individual, right? And so it'll be like a lot of times where I'm like, I might not be having the best day. Somebody might have said something to me that I had to, still hold my composure and answer it in a professional way. And I'm not having a good day. But she comes with a smile, comes with a good joke, comes with words of encouragement, and boom, my day has been changed. So I say all that to say impact on others is what really drives me within the work.
Mm. Your final question. What are your future career aspirations and goals?
Ooh, my future career aspirations and goals. There's a few of them. I think at the top of my list is really within this year is kind of landing a some type of position that is more so strictly into, not I won't say strictly, but more so into marketing and communications, where I'm able to fully be able to utilize my public speaking skills. So I think that's a big one for me, because a lot of the positions that I've had so far have been I've been able to utilize those skills and bring those skills to the table, but it hasn't been strictly that. It hasn't, like, the title of the position hasn't really been marketing manager, right?
Mm.
Excuse me. So being able to do that, like, that's one of my goals, as well as dibbling back into acting in many different capacities. I have a love for theater, so I have a love for being on the stage, but I also want to try out film. So that's one of my goals as well. Trying it out, seeing how I like it. Um, Opening up my own production company would be nice in the future, and producing work that I find to be impactful and engaging. That's on the list. Being able to be kind of like financially free, I think we kind of all want that, right? Being able to, like, do the work that I love and not have to worry about the dollar amount that's behind it. That is definitely a goal of mine as well. And just living life, traveling more, um, with friends, with family, living life to the fullest. I
Well,
think that's pretty much it.
I'm going to tell you, if the opportunity ever presents itself, I want you to know that I want to make sure that I have you working with me
I appreciate that. That means a lot. Thank you. I appreciate that.
because you know, the spirit and the life and everything that you give brings prosperity.
Hmm.
And so, there are just those times, that, you can have that back and forth thing,
Right.
but it's that when you get that niche, and when you get that niche, you just hold on to it And when you hold on to it, let it go. So it can take you right along with it, and you just handling and controlling what you control.
Right.
Because you know, it's in this day and time, it's actually I found it inspirational. When you find an enormous amount of young people and young men, especially like yourself, that can inspire and can do, all the right things and the good things that you do. So it's like you're basically what they may call that diamond that people just walk by and they never looked at it and they couldn't
Mhm.
find it.
Right.
But I think today everybody gets to see that diamond as it shines.
Oh
And I
wow.
thank you so very much for blessing us with your presence because it really means that much.
I thank you. I thank you for those encouraging words. I thank you for having me on your platform today to kind of just be able to talk about my journey and my experience. And I really hope that it has helped someone else who's watching this, and just to let them know that whatever may be going on is only up and up. So I definitely appreciate those kind words, and thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. And I want to thank each and every individual that was watching the show, including those that are watching on the YouTube channel. Please hit the subscription and notifications button. And we welcome you back to the show tomorrow night as we have another great show. I want to thank you again, Mr. Thomas, for blessing us. And I hope that you'll come back again.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. And everyone that watched tonight, you all have a great evening. And we will see you all tomorrow night.